Michelangelo di Buonarroti Simoni, an artist, sculptor, poet, and architect, was born in Caprese, Italy on March 6, 1475. He was the second of 5 sons. His father, Leonardo, was a magistrate for a few years in Caprese, where he was born. After Michelangelo was born, his family moved back to Florence, Italy, where they were originally from. His mother, Francesca Neri, fell ill, and Michelangelo was given to a stone-cutting family so they could take care of him. It was this family where he found a love for sculpting. This became apparent to his father, who then allowed his son to be an apprentice in a Florentine painter's workshop when he was 13 years old. There he was exposed to the techniques of fresco, a technique used to paint murals. Michelangelo would later use this technique in the famous Sistine Chapel. When he was 14, he started studying the classical sculptures in the palace gardens of the Florentine ruler Lorenzo the Magnificent of the powerful Medici family. This allowed him access to the social elite of Florence, where he studied under the sculptor named Bertoldo di Giovanni, and was exposed to poets, scholars, and humanists. Through permission from the Catholic Church, he studied cadavers for insight and anatomy. All of these influences laid the groundwork for what would become his distinctive style of muscular precision and reality, combined with the lyrical beauty, led to many rocky relationships, often with his supervisors. As his career began to start rolling, Michelangelo had an enemy of the name Leonardo da Vinci of Florence, Italy. Leonardo was 20 years older than Michelangelo when their careers challenged each other. Through the years, Michelangelo had developed the nickname Il Divino. The English translation of his nickname is the Divine One. Enough about Michelangelo. Let's talk about his pieces. The first sculptures that have survived time are the pieces Battle of the Centaurs and Madonna Seated on a Step. These two pieces were sculpted when Michelangelo was 17 years old. First, let's talk about the Battle of the Centaurs. This sculpture is a mass of 3-dimensional figures carved into a marble block. These figures are layered and overlapping each other, which adds to the depth of the work. This piece shows the theme of muscular precision, which is apparent in most of Michelangelo's work. This style foreshadows his work in the Sistine Chapel that he will do a number of years later. There is no record of this block being a part of any bigger pieces or work done by Michelangelo, or a destination to where this piece was intended to be. Now let's talk about the second sculpture from when Michelangelo was 17, Madonna Seated on a Step. Here we see a female figure, which we assume is Madonna, sitting on a block with an infant in her arms. The block that she is sitting on is a plain block and is a hallmark of Michelangelo's and is apparent in many other pieces. The sculpture as a whole has the same form and content that we see in many Greek influence of stelae. Now Madonna's face is a classical profile. She is holding the infant underneath her robe, protecting it while it is breastfeeding or sleeping. This sculpture is brilliant in the way Michelangelo used the chisel. He uses it as a sort of pencil. He creates remarkable detail without having the image being too much 3-dimensional from the block. Next, I want to talk about another great sculpture by Michelangelo. This sculpture is called David. David is 17 feet tall and is carved out of marble. Some scholars believe that this sculpture of Michelangelo rivals or even surpasses ancient Greek and Roman sculptures. This sculpture gives a good image of Michelangelo's style. He likes to make the stone appear to have a lively flesh and blood. This style carries on to Michelangelo's paintings as well. Michelangelo's most famous painting site, the Sistine Chapel, is home to a magnificent mural stretching across the ceiling. Michelangelo had tremendous physical pain when painting in the chapel. He used a technique called fresco, as mentioned earlier. Fresco is a type of mural painting in which the artist paints on a freshly laid or wet plaster. Michelangelo used water as a vehicle for his color pigments to merge with the plaster. When the plaster sets, the painting becomes a part of the wall. The wall behind the altar in the Sistine Chapel is home to one of Michelangelo's astonishing murals. The Last Judgment is a mural to represent the change of times that Rome had been through. The murals change from beauty to gloom and terror due to the events of the sack of Rome in 1527 and its aftermath. The space above the altar is reserved for the mouth of hell, and to the left of the mouth, the white barren earth is painted and is where Adam lied in the creation of Adam. On the bottom left, you can see the dead rising from the ground. Some are skeletons and some are well preserved. Above, you can see the angels choosing who to bring up from earth to heaven. The dominant color in this piece is the flesh color of the beings in the piece. This tone is contrasted with the slightly blue sky, and the corpses preserve and blend in with the color of the earth, whereas the red spots of the angels' cloaks stand out throughout the painting. The theme of muscular men is present in this painting with over 300 bodies. With elegant nudes and powerful seated figures, Michelangelo set a new standard for painting. He created the body to not just be an actor in a narrative, but emotionally and spiritually expressive on its own. Michelangelo died in 1564 after falling ill in Rome. His nephew took him back to Florence, where the people gave him the name Father and Master of all the arts. Unlike many, Michelangelo achieved fame during his lifetime, and his name has become upheld in the ranks of the best Italian Renaissance artists.